Chapter 48, NASA, Johnson Space Center, Houston, Texas, Friday, 9:45 a.m., 1962. The thing is, you can go back. You can revisit a coordinate all you want, but it's never the exact same time as when you last visited. Close, but not precisely, because time continues whether you're there or not. The location is always the same, so there's that. But this faritude Bill never bothered to understand. This heretofore unknown coordinate the Atlanteans discovered with their great scientist and intellect before the fall of their earthbound civilization, no one could fully explain. This coordinate did indeed affect the timing of one's travels, and not for the better the majority of the time. The most he could make of it, since time moved in a spiral that itself was also moving independently of time, faritude was a piece of uncooked spaghetti thrown through a tiny tornado. And at whatever axis the pasta pierces the cyclone, that was the faritude. The further back you went, the more stable the faritude. It only made sense to Bill over 17th century wine with charcoal sketches and a plate of pasta for visual aids. Therefore, after a night's rest and the few hours it took Bill the next morning to gather supplies and purchase a brown suit, days had passed at NASA when he returned, though the atmosphere seemed noticeably less relaxed. As it was when he casually exited the supply closet and strolled through the second-floor commons area, conversations were muted, eyes suspicious. There you are. It was the same man from the break room the day before. Yet another lit cigarette stuck to his bottom lip as he took hold of Bill's upper arm and steered him toward the nearest boardroom. The room was already packed with other brown suits, all seated on one side of an enormous square conference table, some wearing white lab coats over their brown suits. Black-suited men with a penchant for severe buzz cuts lined the other side of the table, and, at the head of it, stood two men in khaki Air Force uniforms. Don, Bill's new friend, the smoker, whose name Bill learned when they joined the meeting and a lab coat wearer greeted him with, "Hey Don, that was some game last night, right?" pulled Bill into a chair on his right, tamping his cigarette out in one of the many ashtrays available. "Shall we get started, gentlemen?" one of the khaki men coughed, sitting straighter in his seat, tossing an overstuffed file onto the conference table with a loud splat. The sole woman in the room was seated alone along the wall, her eyes fixed on the steno machine at hand, fingers flying over the keys with rapid efficiency as the second khaki man, General something or other, cleared his throat. "I don't have to tell you men the importance of this phenomena, and the great need of the American people for us to find the source and determine if it's a threat. If it's an alien, we can capture it. If it's a commie spy, we'll kill it. Or shit, is it the other way around? Regardless, if it's something in between, we'll determine that course of action when we find out. Dr. Nardoli, does your team have any thoughts after interviewing this?" He leaned over, the other khaki whispering in his ear, "Janus person?" A man in a lab coat, Dr. Nardoli, cleared his throat, bringing his fingertips together in a steeple before he answered. "I can say, as of now, we have determined there was no external breach of security. The visitor of indeterminate origin appeared here, on the second floor, and disappeared within this very office, and we cannot verify, and let me be very clear, nor can we rule out that the being was not terrestrial. For God's sake, it disappeared in front of countless NASA employees in broad daylight. It was almost very clearly of alien origin, judging by the size of the head and its advanced cloaking skills. We don't know what this means, but we mean to find out. My hypothesis is that this being is an intelligent alien from another dimension who is trying to communicate with us. and not the Russians. Dr. Nardoli crossed his arms as he sat back in his chair, nodding affirmatively. The men in black suits exchanged knowing glances, nodding almost imperceptibly to their khaki leader. Someone slid Bill the file folder with the expectation that he, like every man in the room, would take a quick, stern glance at its contents, adding any nuggets of expertise to the conversation. The file was labeled Project Penelope, Top Secret. Never a fast reader, Bill picked out several key words on the documents within, such as alien life form, dimensional travel, a typed deposition including the phrase appeared to Janice Russell at 11:32 Central Standard Time and Tuesday, 1962. Technical diagrams of where Bill disappeared in front of the secretary, Janice, and the repeated use of the words Russian spies before passing the folder on to Don, who studied the documents intensely while frowning and squinting. During the 30-minute debrief, in which the American military walked NASA employees through their 15-step process for catching spies posing as spacemen, or catching spacemen who could be spies, Bill tried to keep a straight face, nodding convivially and agreeing with anyone else in a brown suit. "What did I tell you?" Don patted Bill's shoulders as they exited the meeting, stretching as Don lit a cigarette, joking, "Janice is nuts and she's going to get us all fired." "You don't, think this alien thing is anything to worry about?" Bill stuttered, shaken by the intense disposition of the military consultants, and feeling their eyes still upon him as he tried to blend in. "I think Janice had a little juice in her juice that day, if you know what I mean." Don laughed, ashing on the floor as he slowed his pace. He lifted his chin suddenly, his hand gripping his cigarette, waving in the air at someone across the office, shouting, "Say, Dr. Sanders, I've got a question about gravity for our good doctor over there, if you'll excuse me. See ya, bud." Don nudged Bill familiarly before darting away in the other direction, in pursuit of this Dr. Sanders with an apologetic wink. Flabbergasted to think it could be this easy, Bill followed Don as Don cut through a patch of desks, turning a corner and barely catching the exit door to the stairs before it slammed shut. Bill, several inches shorter than Don and less nimble, rushed to catch up, rising on his toes to keep track of Don's head over the cubicle walls without breaking into a run. As inconspicuously as he could, Bill followed Don down the 2 flights of stairs to the lobby, pulling up short as he peered around the corner on the ground floor of the office and spied Don conversing with what could have been a stately woman or a man of average height in a white lab coat, the hair obscured by a wide-brimmed hat and an umbrella balanced jauntily across one shoulder, their backs turned to him so he couldn't quite see their faces. Bill watched, waiting for the doctor to turn and expose a full profile, but after a brief, animated discussion, Don pivoted, heading back to the stairwell. Bill ducked into an adjacent hallway, watching Don stride past, throwing open the door and bounding back up the stairs. Bill rushed through the lobby, his eyes trained to the ground, willfully ignoring the lobby receptionist as she asked him to sign out, and followed the retreating form of Dr. Sanders. "Dr. Sanders!" he called as he reached the parking lot, spotting the tail of a white coat whipping around the driver's side door of a classic finned sedan. The car backing up and pulling out of the lot with a squeal of tires, even as Bill called out, racing behind the vehicle, his right hand extended. "Dr. Sanders! Yoo-hoo! I just have a question about your nephew. Sir, ma'am." Glancing around in desperation, Bill spotted a bicycle listing against the concrete wall of an exterior stairwell. Without thinking, he grabbed the bike and leapt upon the banana seat after giving it a rolling start, successfully racking his balls and striking his shin with the pedal simultaneously, slowing him down considerably at the start. Despite the handicap, Bill managed to glide to the 4-way stop, still clutching his testicles and wincing as he pedaled with the tip of his toes, which by the by did nothing for optics, almost reaching the Aqua Cadillac as it cruised through 4 intersections and began a series of right and left turns, snaking through what appeared to be an expansive, growing subdivision of almost identical pink, blue and yellow homes. Bill pedaled as hard as his limited fitness would allow, gliding when possible down the sloped, shady roads of the neighborhoods, but he could never quite catch up to the car, the driver never acknowledging Bill's increasingly loud cries to stop or slow down. In the end, he lost sight of the vehicle several blocks into his pursuit, though as luck would have it, while Bill pedaled forlornly up and down the quiet streets in despair, becoming quite lost in the process, he cruised past one house, the yard wild and unkept, at odds with its tidy neighbors in its state of disrepair, and came to a stop. The turquoise car was parked in the driveway, its engine still warm and ticking, water dripping from its undercarriage, as Bill popped the kickstand of the bike down, failing several times to set it correctly, and then heaved the entire contraption into the overgrown grass of the side yard. The home looked almost unoccupied. Bill knocked on the yellow front door, but there was no response, though he thought he saw the movement of a curtain in the front room falling back into place when he stepped back to look. Bill knocked louder. "Dr. Sanders! You don't know me, but I believe I know your nephew. I just have a few questions. Dr. Sanders!" Bill glanced down at the timer on his watch as he grew lightheaded. "Well, God!" Boom. Whoosh. The Finkles' dining room. Present time. "Damn it!" Bill exclaimed, resetting his clock to the coordinates on the paper in his hand. Boom. Whoosh.